Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get started. Welcome to Town of Aurora Committee of Adjustment meeting for Thursday, March the 9th. I'm the chair of the committee. My name is Grace Marsh, and the remaining members with me here tonight are Tom Plamondon, my vice chair, David Mango, Roy Harrington, and we have one member who's ill tonight. The secretary-treasurer with us is Justin Leung. The planner is Marty Rokos, and we've got Samantha Kong from the clerk's department. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including on the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk. Please be advised that any of the reports being considered tonight are available on the desk in the front here. Should you wish to receive notification of any of the decisions of tonight's meeting, please complete the appropriate form, which is also there, although owners and agents of a property will be automatically notified. For each application that we're going to consider tonight, the following process will occur. I will briefly outline the purpose of the application, and then the applicant or the agent will be given an opportunity to make a presentation. However, that is not required. It is the applicant's decision whether they wish to speak or let the application proceed on the merits of the information that we've received. Following any initial comments from the applicants, I will invite members of the public who have an interest in the application to come forward and address the committee. Those members of the public who wish to speak must clearly state your name and address and sign the corresponding request for notice form on the table in front. After completing the form, please hand it to the secretary-treasurer. Each individual may speak only once on an issue, and once discussion has commenced in respect of a motion, no further presentations shall be made. Please ensure that all questions and/or comments are directed through me as the chair, and if relevant, I will request the appropriate person respond. It should be noted that the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond to any questions or comments should the committee feel that's appropriate. So tonight's meeting will now commence, and the first thing I'll ask if any of the committee members have any declarations of pecuniary interest. None. Seeing none, thank you. I'll look for approval of tonight's agenda. We have added one item that may not have been on the public release agenda. Our item number 1 is a deferred application from a previous meeting that has come back to us, and the rest of the items were part of the public circulation. So could I get a motion, please?
I move.
Okay. Seconder?
I'll second.
Thanks. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting. I will call the vote, however, will not be voting as I was not here. So if I could get a mover and a seconder for the minutes as presented from your meeting last week.
Also move.
In favor? That carries as well. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move into our hearing of applications. Item number 1 is our deferred application, minor variance application MV 2016-45 for 30 more Padamore Gate. The owner is requesting a minor variance to a reduction in the minimum distance separation for a deck from the rear lot line from 3.8 meters to 0.7 meters, thus requiring a variance of 3.09 meters. The owner has submitted revised drawings which propose to remove a portion of the deck east of the hot tub. I'll stop there and ask the applicant if he would like to come forward.
Hello, everybody. Again, since this is a deferral application, it's been approximately about 2 months since. What do I need to do? Oh, this thing. That better? Okay. Since it's been about 2 months since I brought it back, I'd like to take an opportunity to kind of just review everything with everybody again, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, and walk everybody through the logic that I went through in my proposed revision. Is that fair? So, did you guys, do I have to put this up there? Or do you have that? Okay. So what you're seeing right now is current drawings. Everything that is east of the hot tub or east of the deck there in gray, just want to mention that is within zone and within code, and is not really subject to the discussion today with respect to the variance. It's really the deck area outlined there to the west side of the lot. I'd like to also mention that the hot tub there in the northwest corner does sit independently on grade and is not attached to the deck in any which way, manner, or form. I do believe that is an important factor into consideration. The positioning of the hot tub is within zoning guidelines with all the setbacks that's required as well. Right? What you also see there is that dotted line across the horizontal line across the deck area there, just south of the hot tub.
Excuse me, can you point to things
Sure,
on
sorry.
that as you talk? Because I'm just a little bit lost. Thank you.
So everything over here is in accordance to zone and bylaws, and has nothing to be discussed. It meets all building code requirements. It's not subject to any type of change or adjustments at this point. I want to make sure that that was acknowledged. This is the hot tub area here. This hot tub here actually sits on grade. It has not been elevated. It does not sit on the deck, nor is it attached to the deck in any which way or form. The deck around this whole area is just up against the deck, just sits up against it, doesn't attach to it in any way. This line here is the actual required setback line. So anything south of here meets zoning requirements. Anything north of here was the original variance being requested, right? This area here along the west side and also the north side is the width of it is so small that you can't even really step on it at all. All right, the only reason why there is a little bit of a clearance here and a little bit of a clearance area here is to accommodate the hot tub cover lift, because it sits on the side of the hot tub, so it just needs to clear that to be able to operate appropriately. This line here and this line here has a privacy screen. As it currently sits today, it sits 1.8, sorry, let me just bring that down. 1.82 meters from deck level higher, which currently is higher than the common fence line. So that's where it currently exists today, right? Hopefully that provides a good summation and provides context to where it currently exists today.
It does, except if I could just ask you which is the actual side where the variance is being requested? Just show me that, please.
So the variance is being requested for this part downward, because anything up north of this dotted line, deck-wise, is considered not acceptable.
Okay.
The hot tub, the position where it is acceptable. The setback is acceptable. The fact that it sits on grade is acceptable, and it can legally be there, right? I did have a permit for the hot tub. The city has come out and checked it, and it's been granted and it's been approved for me to have the hot tub there. The city has looked at everything over here as well too, and has signed off that everything is fine, and nothing there needs a variance. So it's really this portion here, all the way back to this line, this little piece around here and here. Is that okay? So based on this is what is currently constructed today. From my understanding, there had been the neighbor north here, which is on Kane Crescent, if you recall, had put forth a letter of concern outlining 4 concerns. After discussion at the last council meeting, it was recommended that I communicate with the neighbor to try to address those concerns. At such point, I have had a conversation, I believe it was towards the end of January, with said neighbor, and we've discussed what currently exists today. Therefore, I've made some adjustments, and this has been incorporated into my proposed changes, which I feel addresses many of the concerns overall. So this, before I move on, is there any questions on this? No. So here, what I have is the new proposal. Again, so lean towards here now. Got it. Okay. So in this proposal here, as you can see, everything east of the hot tub remains as is. Based on the last planner's report, there was recommendation that the concern was really the accessibility of this area here. Because it is somewhat elevated, an individual can stand here, look across over into the neighbor's yards and infringe on their privacy. To address that concern, this recommendation or proposal drops this down to near grade level. So it removes this major section of the deck. It will bring it in line to a much lower level to where the grade is here in the gray area. Shifting the steps that were here, turning it 90 degrees over this way to provide access onto this back portion of the deck. And I've had a number of contractors in. I've been working, that's why it's been taking me a little while. It's hard to get contractors out at this time of year. And with snow, it's hard to kind of see what's going on. So I managed to get a number of contractors out here to discuss how I can potentially achieve this structurally and still pass building code. I won't know exactly for sure until I rip everything off, but they say it can be done. Whether we use stone material or wood, it can be lowered down to that level, right? So that will address one area of concern here for someone standing here to look over and infringe on privacy in another way. The other area of concern that the neighbor had expressed was that the fact that this fence or this privacy screen is highly visible from where they are. The recommendation that this puts forth is that actually reduces the height of this entire perimeter here over half and brings it in line with the railing height here, which is the minimum that I would need to have to pass code here, because with anything raised over a certain height, you must have a railing for safety purposes. By bringing it down to, as you can see, 0.91 meters, which is approximately a reduction of half, brings it in line with the railing that currently exists today, which meets building code. It actually also makes the overall height of this area below the common fence line here. So this whole area now in this proposal is no longer visible from the neighbors. All right, so I believe that between removal of this major section here and no longer having access at that height, the reduction of the privacy screen to minimum code standards, which is also below the overall fence line, addresses the other concern around the area being highly visible from neighbors. The other concern was raised was the potential issue around drainage in this area. I have been working with staff and I had discussions. I've been advised that town engineering had been discussed, reviewed with, and they had expressed no concern with the drainage in this area and with this proposal. That's what I've been advised, and those conversations did occur. So as you can see, with this revised proposal, the variance that I would be seeking here is, again, extremely minimal here, which is really not really usable area here. This is the only real area that's actually usable in relation to the lot line here, which is what is required. And this is really from an accessibility perspective, to be able to access this rear area of the deck. So that addresses many of the concerns. The other concern that was expressed in the neighbors was that I have accent lighting around, and they were on timers, and they're on every night. So after the last meeting and after I saw that, I turned off the timers, and now they're off every night. They're only turned on when I'm actually out there and using in the area. So now anything around here is really not visible at night, and it's pretty dark out there most nights. Right? So I believe that based on this new proposal, I've addressed many, if not all, of the concerns from my neighbor. I've worked with the staff here on a number of different variations. This is the most extreme of adjustments. Even with this, it's going to probably cost me over $10,000 to do. Right? I believe I've addressed all my neighbors' concerns as well. But that is really where I'm at now at this point in time. Right.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tran. I'm going to now look to see if there are any members of the public that wish to come forward. So the neighbor too has not appeared. Oh, thank you very much. We'll need your name and address, please, sir.
Patrick Kenny, 110 King Crescent. Probably one issue with everything is the drainage, because we have an issue prior to all this. We had a backlot of water, basically almost ankle high, prior to all of this, what was going on. So we just want to make sure the drainage is okay. And after that, everything else looks good.
Thank you very much. I'm going to refer those comments to staff. In our original report, I noticed that we got no comments or objections from Infrastructure and Environmental Services. At the time, there didn't seem to be a concern with the original application, and perhaps staff could just address for us whether there's been any change in that regard.
To the chair, there has been no change, and Infrastructure Environmental Services has no concerns.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public to address this application? All right, seeing none, then I'm going to look to the committee for questions to the applicant, please.
Hi. I have a question. If you would look at the your figure, if I can look at this one here. This is the area, yes, the area between the hot tub and this gray area, which you are sort of redesigning, the one you are redesigning. Have you submitted this to the town, like the building department? Have they looked at it, like giving you assurance that the design will meet the building code?
No, I've not submitted. Sorry, I've not submitted this piece. This has been submitted, the original, right? I have not talked to the city with respect to this meeting building code, right? I would definitely make sure that it does meet building code, because if this were to be approved, I would then obtain a building permit, right? And then that would address any building code at that point, right?
So my here is you are designing something which you think may meet this building code, and is something which will help with the minor variance you have applied. So let's say, for example, we say we accept the minor variance, and later on it doesn't meet the building code. What's going to happen?
Building code, or else I won't be able to build. Am I correct? Right. So, for example, if what I would do next is, if this were to be approved, right, I would bring contractors in. We would draw it all out. I get a permit, and then I'd be forced to comply with building code.
Okay, I'm just going to, David, I think has a very valid point because I felt the same thing myself. I'm concerned about approving that the variance can exist, and then if you apply for a building permit and you can't get it, then we're right back again to square one. So could I please ask staff to comment on whether it would be more appropriate to have this go forward for another circulation amongst and including the building department with the revised plan, and then have this come back to us? I look to staff's guidance if maybe this is a little bit of cart before the horse.
This isn't a building drawing. It's just kind of a concept drawing for the purposes of the minor variance. And the building department actually doesn't get circulated for minor variance applications. Is that, as far as I understand?
They do, but they don't provide any further comments.
They do get circulated, but they don't provide comments on the variance itself. So it is a standard practice for an applicant to obtain a minor variance and then apply for a building permit after that.
Okay, thank you. So if that's the normal process, David, does that answer that question for you?
Yes. But anyway, you have given the answer. I still have 2 more questions. This is to the gentleman there. You heard from staff that the engineering staff, they say they don't see any drainage issue, but you have a concern with the drainage issue. Can you explain exactly what you mean?
Please come forward again, Mr. Kinney, and use the microphone. Thank you.
Every spring, when the snow melts, there's a backlog of water prior to his taking over his house, back onto our fence. It is wet. Like when we mean wet, it is like flooded with water as it goes around our back fence, going between the 2 houses. There is at least a good 2 to 3, like I would say at least 2 inches of water going through the 2 neighbors, 110 and 106. We brought this to the builder, and he said, okay, don't worry about it. It's not an issue. We had issues with our basement. We had cracks in our basically foundation, 2 or 3 of them. They came in to fix it. So this is what we have an issue with, is the drainage of the water. If he's building his deck the way he is doing it, we just want to make sure there's no water drainage going around and basically doing the same thing that we had an issue with.
The swales between the houses are not deep enough, they're not big enough to convey the water, or?
We are set. As you see the street, it goes down, but as our neighbor beside us built something, and it's blocking the water to go through down, further down. They build a like a patio, so on and so forth, and it's like a mixture of stuff going on right now.
Mr. Kinney, I'm just going to jump in here for you and the committee member. I don't see where that has anything to do with Mr. Tran's variance at this point in time. It sounds as though there may have been a pre-existing problem. I understand your concern to ensure that this doesn't make it any worse, but I'm going to direct you to the Infrastructure and Environmental Department directly because it sounds to me it's a bigger issue, and I don't believe it has weight on our decision on Mr. Tran's variance tonight.
Correct, but I just want to make sure that when he was building his deck, it doesn't curve it in.
Yes, yeah, and I again, I'll encourage you to go to the Environmental and Infrastructure Department and have that conversation with them. Thank you very much. David, you had another question?
You described that, is it red line, the fence, this one, you said you have reduced it. Oh, the proposal. Okay, you're proposing to reduce it. Okay.
Everything this is proposed, right, to be able to address the concerns of my neighbors, to say they don't want to see anything. And the reduction actually gets it below the common fence line, right? But it also, from all my reading of building code, it also meets minimum requirements of height that is required. So it serves both purposes.
That proposal, have you prepared the drawings and submitted to the staff, to the town? Have you submitted the proposal?
This is what I've submitted to the city. This is what the staff has reviewed. I've been going back and forth with staff for over 2 months now, having numerous conversations with them, numerous proposals, numerous discussions. Ultimately, it was my decision to come forth with this particular version. As you can see, this is proposal B, because there was probably up to D3 or something like that. But staff has looked at this. Also, in the recent staff report, it also mentions that this does address many of the concerns. It's just this one little area here is still that distance.
Through the chair, I just want to make sure to staff that their recommendation that is part of the circulation that we're looking at based on this particular design. Is that correct, Marty?
I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question through the chair?
Sure. So, Mr. Tran began with what I thought was a revised drawing. Yeah, if you put that up.
Okay, so this is what you saw in January.
All right. So, putting the other one up, revised. So, I'm assuming that this recommendation that we're looking at from staff is based on this particular drawing. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. I reviewed this drawing that Mr. Tran submitted, and that's the one that is before the committee.
Okay. Mr. Tran, what was help me refresh my memory here, what's the height of the deck above grade?
So grade, in this particular area, the grade starts higher here, and it drops dramatically down here. So it varies in different areas. At the highest point here, it's approximately about 24 inches above grade, approximately just right by up against the house here. And at the back here, I believe it's 32 inches at its highest height. I'm not exactly to the point or to the inch there, but that's what I recall when I spoke with the city when they came out, the town when they came out.
So you're roughly within 4 inches a meter at the north end, roughly about a meter there, correct?
I would probably say about that, yeah, okay. Above ground.
We'll call it the screen there. How much higher is that then?
So from the proposal, right, is 9.1. So if I were to take that 0.91, if I were to take that, I would and look at it from the ground up, it is lower than if I were to compare it to this area here, which is the common fence between the two properties. That's approximately, and again, it varies because of the elevation. That's probably about 6 feet above ground. It's probably about a 6-foot fence around there, or maybe, yeah, it's about 6.5 feet in certain points. This overall would be lower than that.
Okay, and I know that that's not subject to any variance requirements there, and that's fine. So again, I'm looking at this drawing, You've taken the outlined area in red up against the deck there, and you're sort of putting it through on an angle. Yeah.
Going to demonstrate the different materials that can be potentially there. So I'm actually recommending this whole area here, up until the step is going to be lower. This was to represent, because it says here stone or wood. I'm not sure what the material will be yet, based until I rip it apart. But this whole area here, this square footage, will be removed.
Okay, so that's much clearer to me now, because it didn't make sense when you had a step there looking like it was going down on wood, and then getting me down to ground there.
This grade area here, this whole area much lower, and then this is the first step up onto here.
They'll be there?
Going to be the step, so I think it's about two steps. It's what the existing, because this already exists today. Right now I have two steps to get up here, two small steps, instead of doing one big step, two small steps to actually meet building code to get up there. It's not, the steps aren't high enough whereby it requires a rail either. So within code, it's probably about that high with two steps.
Looking at it, that was my next question. Did you require then a railing between the upper and lower area there in gray and the upper part of the deck?
This here? Yeah, take that straight one. This here? Yeah. Yes, I do require railing here. I do require railing here, not necessarily because of the height at this point in juncture. I actually require it for this point in height juncture. So from an aesthetics perspective, instead of just having nothing here, I decided to put the rail this way here. But by no means the height of here actually requires me to have a rail. So it's not that high. And that's why when I drew the drawing that I would flip the steps 90 degrees, it is quite low, and it doesn't actually require a railing here either.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Do I have to press anything? Nope. Oh, did I hear you say, or maybe not, the lady to the rear that objected, have you talked to her about your new changes planned?
Yeah. They're actually the individuals here today.
Okay, I guess they're satisfied, or they would have come to the mic. Oh, okay, fair enough, thank you.
That's it for you. Okay, thank you. I have no comments or questions at this point in time, so I'll look to the committee for a motion on this application.
A question through the chair. Are there any conditions or any? I just have a piece, so I'm not sure.
To the best of my knowledge, there are no conditions imposed to us. However, and we'll double check that with staff, that does not stop you from having a motion that does include any conditions. To the staff, are there any conditions recommended should this be approved? I know what we have before us tonight is your recommendation that you do not support it. So have you provided any conditions?
Through the chair, the original conditions from the original proposal, there was one from Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, and that was really the main. That they would need to obtain a permit for any site alterations, and that they would have to pay a application review fee. But there are no other conditions from other
so then I
departments.
would request, if there is a motion to approve, that it continue to include that condition.
Sorry. Clarification. Since we heard that this new design has not been submitted to the town, and there'll be requirements for building permit, is it okay to sort of put as a condition, because we're not sure what will happen later on?
So what I hear you asking is, can you put a condition on that if we approve the variance, that the proper building permit be applied and the drawing be reviewed by the town? Yeah, I don't see any harm in putting that condition on if you want that there.
I move that the application be approved, subject to the existing conditions, the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation conditions, and the new condition. I think maybe the chair can phrase it properly.
Condition that a building permit be obtained from the town prior to the work, and that the work meet all of the standards required by the town.
Yes, thank you.
Fair enough? Does that sound applicable to staff? Okay, so I have a mover for that. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Roy. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. I'll abstain from voting. We won't risk a tie, so that carries. The next application before us is minor variance application, let me move some paper. Shimvest Investments, 106 Scrivener Drive, MV 2017-03. The applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw number 221378 as amended, respecting to allow semi-detached dwelling within a block on an M plan. The property in question is in a row dwelling residential exception R6-63 zone. Section 15.67.1 of the zoning bylaw does not permit semi-detached dwelling as a use. The applicant is proposing 2 semi-detached dwellings for units 10 and 11 within a block on an M plan, thus requiring relief from the provision of this bylaw. Please note this subject property is also subject to an application for site plan approval, SP 2016-05. Planning Services had no objections. Building Services, Infrastructure and Environmental Services, Parks, Recreation and Cultural Services all had no comments. Central York Fire Services, no comments received. Electra Utilities, no objections. York Region, no objections. Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, no objections, subject to a condition. Do we have an applicant or agent for this one?
Good evening, members committee. My name is Edward Mack from representing Shimvest Properties, and I am available to answer any questions that you may have. We are in agreement with the staff recommendation report.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public that would like to address this application? Thank you. Seeing none, I'll look to questions or comments from members of the committee. Push your button, please, if you wish to speak. We have none. Then I will look for a motion from committee.
Through the chair, I move that the application be approved, subject to one condition from the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority.
Thank you. There's actually 2, if you don't mind a minor correction.
Yeah,
they must be
one.
satisfied within 1 year.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion?
That?
Thank you. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. The next application before us tonight is minor variance application for 40 Steeplechase Avenue, MV 2017-04-A. The purpose of this application is the applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw 221378 as amended, respecting to allow construction of a detached dwelling within the Oak Ridges Moraine minimum vegetation protection zone and significant woodlot. The property in question is in an estate residential ER zone and a major open space O zone. Sections 34.1.3 and 34.1.4 of the zoning bylaw states that no development or site alteration shall occur on a portion of a lot that contains a significant woodland or one or more minimum vegetation protection zones as shown on Schedule B of the bylaw without amendment to or relief from the zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing a 1,031.2 square meter detached dwelling within the significant woodlot or minimum vegetation protection zone, thus requiring a variance from the provisions of the zoning bylaw. Please note, originally the staff report had a second variance, which is now no longer required following additional review. We have planning services have no objections, however, they do have conditions. Building services, no comments. Infrastructure and environmental, no concerns. Parks, Recreation, and Culture had no objections, subject to conditions. Central York Fire, no comments received. Electric Utilities, no objections. York Region, no objections. And Lake Simcoe, no comments. And I see we have an applicant or agent at the microphone.
Yes, good evening. My name is Bill Outred. I'm the agent for the owner, Daryl Ely. I'm not sure if you want a presentation based on the comments. I don't believe there's anything that I can say that isn't already within the actual planning report. We have had many discussions over the last couple of weeks, and we are in agreement with all the conditions as suggested.
Okay, there are a number of them, so you're clear on what they are and have no objection to them then, right?
Yeah.
We like to. Okay, are there any members of the public that would like to speak to this application? Thank you. Seeing none. Any members of the committee want to queue themselves up with questions? Go ahead, Tom. Thank you.
Through the chair, I know that there was reference made in the application with regards to the location of the proposed house versus the location of the existing. So I didn't see anything in plan. Oh, there we are. Okay, so that is exactly what I was hoping to see. And maybe it's in the package, it just didn't come through. So the existing house then really the footprint that you're proposing is essentially in the same location as the existing structure. Is that correct?
It is. And I'm so sorry, we probably should have had something a little clearer with the application, but knowing that I probably was going to be asked that tonight, I indicated the existing in yellow.
Okay, that takes care of my concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see no other comments or questions from the committee. Then I will look for a motion on this item.
Just a clarification then to staff, and I know I read it here, but what part of the application, the variance was withdrawn? Just refresh my memory on that.
Through the chair, the part that was withdrawn was the impervious coverage, and that was variance B.
Okay. So we're only looking at A, if I'm correct, 04A. Okay, terrific. So, Madam Chair, I will move that application MV 2017-04A be approved, subject to conditions as brought forward in the staff report.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
That carries. Thank you. We're still getting used to the new microphones, as you can tell. I'm sure council has this down pat. We're just not as experienced as they are. Before we move on to the next application, I'm just going to ask staff for a little advice on the handling of these. We have before us tonight 2 consent applications and we have 2 minor variance applications. There are 2 separate addresses involved, but very close to each other. Do you have a recommendation as to whether all 4 should be done one at a time, or whether there is an appropriate grouping that could be done here?
Through the chair, if you look at the agenda as I've structured it, I've structured each of them. I've bundled them according to each of the property addresses. So, for example, C-2017-01 is the consent. And then right after I put MV-2017-05 because they are both related to that one property, the severance. And then after you do sever, the lot frontage no longer complies. So you would then have to immediately deal with that through the variance. So I've structured it where you handle these 2 together for 11 Kennedy, and then for the 15 you would handle C-2017-02 and MV-2017-06 together.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will do it that way. We'll do 4 and 5 at one point together, and then we'll do 6 and 7 together. Okay. So we've got 4 and 2 and 6, 1 and 5. All right. So the purpose of application C-2017-01, the owner has submitted a consent application to sever owner's lands to create an additional lot that totals 2 lots. The purpose of application MV-2017-05, the applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw number 221378 as amended, respecting to allow a reduction in minimum lot frontage for construction of a semi-detached dwelling. The property in question is in a special mixed-density residential R5 zone. Section 12.2.1 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum lot frontage of 20 meters. The applicant is proposing a semi-detached dwelling with a lot frontage of 15.2 meters, thus requiring a variance of 4.8. Consent application 2017-01 and minor variance application 2017-05 are related, as both are to facilitate a proposal for a semi-detached dwelling on the subject lands. Planning services have no objections subject to conditions for the consent only. They have no objections to the minor variance. Building services had no comments. Infrastructure and environmental services had no objections subject to conditions. Parks and Recreation had no objections subject to conditions. Central York Fire Services, no comments were received. Electric Utilities had no objections. Subsequent to the writing of this report, York Region did advise us that they had no objections. Legal Services, no objections subject to a condition for the consent only. And Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority had no comments. We have applicant or agent, please.
Good evening, Madam Chair and honorable members. My name is Mathias Scoubet from Innovative Designs, and I am the agent for the owners of both properties. So I will be speaking on both on behalf. These 2 properties are not unlike the previous committee decision that you just have heard. We are seeking to take these 2 properties, split them to make them into semis for both of them. The only difference from the previous application is that these properties are within a zoned portion of the city where we are allowed to split the properties and consider them to be semis. We have seen the staff reports. We have no objections to their comments. We will be obliged and obligated to obviously deal with everything during the permit process, and I look forward to any questions from staff. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. I will look for members of the public with comments on this one. All right. Seeing none, then I will look to the committee for any questions or comments you may have. Queue yourselves up here and we'll dive in.
Chair, just to be clear, maybe from the staff, so you have one lot where maybe there's one house, and then you are converting that one lot to be where there's one house to be semi-detached houses.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Just a comment to staff, through you, Madam Chairman. 20 meters required frontage, and they're asking for a variance of 4.8. That's pretty, in my opinion, that's a big variance. Could Marty comment on that, Madam Chair?
Through the chair, it's the variance was evaluated. It's not a numbers game, strictly speaking, for a minor variance, and it was evaluated and determined that that the proposed variances do meet the test of the Planning Act for a minor variance. If you have any other follow-up or specific questions, I can answer those as well.
Yeah, I know it's not, as you said, straight figure. It's relative. Yeah, thanks, Marty.
Through the chair, to staff, we're just dealing with variances. I'm wondering just how big an area is the R5 zone. When you look at the neighborhood and for the most part, single-family dwellings there, just how far, either, let's say, east or west of Yonge Street does the R5 zone go? And I guess my question is, if the land area associated with the R5 zone is restricted to just the properties in question, and because it is essentially a single-family dwelling area, as opposed to what, I'm not sure what the zoning reflects there, is that the limit of it?
Through the chair, I'm just looking through some of the zoning schedules here. There are a fair amount of properties in the central part of the town that do have an R5 zone. There's a lot of properties that are zoned R2 as well, which is more restrictive and more single detached than the R5. And the R5 does allow for semi-detached and duplex dwellings as well, with minimum lot areas. It varies where the R5 zones are. There's not like a specific area, but I do have the zoning maps here if the committee would like to see them.
Yeah, I guess my question really was, and I apologize to staff. It's something that I thought of yesterday, and I unfortunately didn't have enough time to pull those out myself and have a look at it, just to see how extensive that particular R5 zone was. Should have given you guys a heads up on it. But based on what the applicant has brought forward, and the fact that I don't see anybody here from the public with any concerns, I'm going to take that as not an endorsement, but an acceptance of what we're looking at. So, thank you.
All right, I don't have any comments or questions, so I'll look for a motion. Please, form the motion and, sorry.
Sort of a question. I'm just looking at this is basically to staff. I'm looking at the recommendations or conditions. That's on page number 5, the second bullet point. Somehow I'm surprised. The conditional recommendation says applicant shall demonstrate that the existing municipal services have sufficient capacity for the proposed severed and retained roads. I thought that's one thing the staff have to look before even they put it as a condition. That is the one thing they should be able to know, that there's no downstream capacity, therefore they shouldn't go ahead right away, knowing their system, rather than asking the developer to prove.
Marty, would you like to comment on that? This is basically, are the allocations available?
Yes, exactly.
Correct? Yep.
Through the chair, I believe that's the infrastructure and environmental services condition for servicing capacity allocation. And that would be something that would be confirmed through that department, through the infrastructure and environmental services department, to ensure that servicing allocation is available. It's generally speaking, that's not typically an issue with just one lot being added. It is something that council looks at with respect to larger applications with multiple new units being added. In a case like this, just based on past conversations with the staff who deal with that, it's not typically an issue, but it is something that can be done as a condition in a case like this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'll look for a motion, and we'll just please form that in the, if you're going to move to approve, please do the consent before the variance, because one has to happen before the other. Thank you.
Through the chair, so I'll move that the application for consent, which is C 2017-01, be approved in order to create the two lots. With its conditions. Thank you.
Can I get a seconder for that, please?
I second.
David, all in favor? That carries. And now I'll need a motion, please, for the minor variance.
So again, through the chair, now that I'm on a roll, I'll also move that application MV 2017-05 be approved subject to conditions.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Roy. All in favor? Carries as well. Thank you. Okay. So you can remain standing if you wish. I have to do a little reading before we get started. So this will be application C 2017-02. The owner has submitted a consent application to sever the owner's lands to create an additional lot that totals 2 lots, and this is 15 Kennedy Street East. MV 2017-06, the applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw 22-1378 as amended, respecting to allow a reduction in minimum lot frontage for construction of a semi-detached dwelling. The property in question is in a mixed-density residential R5 zone. Section 12.2.1 of the zoning bylaw requires minimum lot frontage of 20 meters. The applicant is proposing a semi-detached dwelling with a lot frontage of 15.2 meters, thus requiring a variance of 4.8 meters, virtually identical to the last application.
So through you, Madam Chair, ditto on the last application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak to this one? Please come forward, ma'am. We'll need your name and address. Thank you.
My name is Laurel Cook, and I'm at 19 Kennedy Street East. And I was into the town last week to ask a few questions, and the person I spoke to said that this was the better place to ask the questions. So I'm here. When I looked at the design at the town, I asked them if there was going to need to be a retaining wall between 19, where I am, and 15, the is going to change the lots? Like, is there going to be a grade change? There's already a retaining wall there, but I don't know if there's going to be more. And I was also questioning where the downspouts are going to run. There really didn't seem to be enough area between the house and a swale to get the downspout water out to the front, because that's where the gentleman I was talking to said the water's going to drain. And I was just wondering, I'm in a bungalow and they're putting up 2 stories. Is there going to be a fence down there, or?
Okay, so I've got, I think, 3 questions, and what I'd like to do then is give the applicant the opportunity to answer those. Thank you.
Sorry, through the chair, just quickly, that I was the gentleman she spoke with. Right after I spoke with her, I did go speak to our municipal engineer. I did raise those issues to her. And as per that, he did, as part of his review, take your comments into consideration. And they are, due to that, they are part of they form part of the conditions that he set in his comments. So one of them is that a letter of undertaking be executed with the owner, and that would address these issues: grading, drainage, fencing, and again, there's some other, the conditions that he set have taken into consideration those concerns, and the applicant will have to meet those issues if this application is approved.
Thank you very much for that, Justin. So just for clarity, it's condition number 6, and it clearly states that the owner shall provide a letter of understanding with the town to address various site issues such as general grading, driveway locations, drainage system, fencing, sedimentation control, municipal services, servicing easement, curb cut, and etc. Detailed design plans as well as site servicing plans are required prior to the building permit application. Technical review comments shall be provided at the time of the development, and I don't seem to have the end of that sentence on my report. Sorry, Justin, it kind of just fell off there.
So the condition, detailed design plans as well as site servicing plan are required prior to building permit application. Technical review comment shall be provided at time of the development application stage with full submission of detailed design plans.
Okay, just the way our reports are photocopied, that didn't come out on ours. The last line was missing. So thank you for clarity on that. Okay, comments from the owner as well, please.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair. Though comments stated by the neighbor are comments that are often addressed at the building permit stage, it is the mandate of our design department when we do homes that we have to, as part of the engineering process and services, we have to maintain all our water on that property, on our property. We cannot have it discharged onto yours. So that's, I hope, answers that one question. The other question with regards to the swales, we have to have a swale.
I'll ask you please to direct your comments through the chair. Thank you.
Through the chair. With the swales, we have to have them, and that's part of the engineering services. And for, I believe, the third question with regards to downspouts, there will be one in the front, one in the back, discharging to either end in the direction of where the water should be going. All these items will be addressed on our drawings through engineering services, and if we do not satisfy engineering services that way, we will not get issued a building permit. We have to have it done, and that's our mandate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Ms. Cook, I just want to make sure that that does satisfy your record. Your comments are now officially on the record. There is a condition within the approval, if we approve this, that indicates that letters of understanding will have to address all of those issues. And then at any time following this, you would be able to follow up with town staff as to how they were addressed. The one thing I haven't heard you mention is the retaining wall. And I'm not sure I saw that under the letter of undertaking either, so would you like to address that one, please?
Through you, Madam Chair, with the retaining wall, it is as this is a consent application and for a minor variance, we've just received the surveys from, at the time, from the surveyor. Now is the time to actually fulfill the application for permit, and we will see if we need to keep that retaining wall, remove that retaining wall, but either condition, we still have to maintain all the water on our property to satisfy the conditions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to maybe suggest to the committee when they, if they approve this and subject to the conditions, that perhaps to the letter of understanding that we add any retaining walls as well. That I think that would be the appropriate time then to address that as well, to make sure that Ms. Cook's comments are taken into account. All right, thank you. So comments from the committee. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There was just one I think we missed for the neighbor there, and that had to do with a fence and whether or not that was part of it. And I'm just going to comment that although that's not part of the application, you'd still require a permit for the fence through staff, perhaps. If there is a permit required, I would assume that that would go through the approval process. Or standards that apply to any fence, whether a permit's required or not.
Through the chair, that's correct. The fencing is one of the things that can be dealt with through the letter of undertaking, and that was actually mentioned by engineering staff. Fencing was one of the things listed. I'll also point out that the list of things to be dealt with through that letter of undertaking isn't an exhaustive list. It would be up to engineering staff to make sure that they're satisfied.
Okay, so that actually does answer that question, and I hope to the satisfaction of the neighbor there. I'm good with it.
Yes. I think the lady also asked, was it going to be a one or a two-story dwelling?
Through you, Madam Chair, this is a two-story dwelling. Thank you.
Okay, I see that my queue is cleared, so being no further comments, I'll look for a motion.
So through the chair, I'll make a motion that in order that the application for consent C 2017-2 be approved subject to conditions.
Seconder? Or two? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Another motion, please.
I guess I'll just continue. Through the chair, I'll move that minor variance 2017-6 be approved subject to conditions, and if there is a requirement to add any reference to fencing and a retaining wall and drainage, I think was the other thing that we wanted to include in that. Drainage is there. So subject to those conditions, be approved.
Thank you. Seconder? David, thank you. All in favor? That carries as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Just a reminder, anyone who did speak, if you want to get further notification, do fill out the interested party form, the bright green sheet at the front desk. Thank you.
Okay. Next, moving on to item number 8, minor variance application MV 2017-07, Stronach Boulevard Developments. The applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw number 221378 as amended, respecting to remove references of Magna International Inc. and corporate head office from a site-specific zoning bylaw. The property in question is in a rural general exception RU6 zone and rural general exception RU7 zone. Section 29.4.9.1 of the zoning bylaw permits the following uses: advanced production facilities of Magna International, Inc., which includes manufacturing, assembly, fabrication, and processing, together with accessory uses such as warehousing, storage of goods and materials, and offices, all of which shall be Magna-related and primarily serving the advanced production facility. Subordinate accessory uses including a gatehouse or security facility and structure, and recreation and daycare facilities and cafeterias which are located within a main building and primarily serve the employees of the principal use. The applicant proposes the following uses. Basically, it's exactly the same uses. There is just removing a reference to Magna International and corporate head office from that site-specific zoning bylaw. Then there's a second set where section 29.4.10.1 of the zoning bylaw permits the following uses in an RU7 zone, and it's a corporate head office of Magna International, an arts and education center primarily related to or servicing Magna International, a clinic or health center and or hospital primarily related to or serving Magna International, a research and product development center primarily relating to or servicing the corporate head office uses set out above, accessory uses including a gatehouse security structure, and recreation and daycare cafeterias which are located within a main building, primarily to serve the employees of the principal use. And again, the changes being proposed simply removed any reference to Magna International. Planning services, no objections. Building services, no comments. Infrastructure, no concerns. Parks and Recreation, no comments. Central York, no comments received. And no objections from Electra, York Region, or Lake Simcoe. Is there anyone here to speak to this one? This is actually very similar to a previous one we had before us. We do basically understand the need here. So.
You took the words right out of my mouth, and that was effectively all I was going to say. My name is Templar Trneistich with Delta Urban Inc. We're here representing the applicant, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have, and won't take up any of your time if it's something you saw 2 months ago effectively.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any members of the public that wish to address this application? Seeing none, any questions or comments from the committee, please queue up. Thank you, Tom.
So to staff, obviously this is similar to the one we did before. This is just a different block of land. I didn't cross-reference it to the original one we did.
Through the chair, that's correct. It's very similar to the previous application. It's basically lands that are surrounding the property that was dealt with at the previous meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments or questions from the committee? Roy, you right there? Okay, then I'll look for a motion, please.
Through the chair, I move that the application be approved as presented.
Thank you. Seconder, Tara? Thank you. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. That completes our applications for tonight, and I'll look to see if there's any new business from any members of the committee or anything from staff for new business tonight. No? No? Good. No? I'll just mention oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Roy.
I see. Stream, did they sell to Electra Utilities, whoever they are?
What actually happened is that PowerStream merged with Mississauga and Hamilton's hydro companies now. So now it's called Electra, yes. It's the second largest electricity company in the continent now.
Thanks.
Thank you. The only thing I'll mention under new business is in terms of upcoming meetings, this committee will meet as a tribunal next month, and I believe it's 5 o'clock. Yeah? 5:30. Thank you. We'll have a property standards hearing to conduct just prior to the next meeting. So if you can't make that time frame, please let us know as soon as possible. I believe there's been an email. And then the following month of May, I will actually be absent on vacation, so Tom will be sitting in as the chair at that one. Okay, anything else? Then I'll ask for a motion of adjournment, please. I shall move. Thank you. We are adjourned.